Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Shattered from 2022, which is technically now. So, this movie, I would recommend people not going and seeing the trailer before actually going in and watching this movie, because a trailer will ruin the film for you. Or, like, really, the trailer tells you everything that's going on in the film, and then you go on and are left without any real legitimate surprises. If Chris, after this movie, had any inkling of just trust or to go on and think that, oh, like I can just let somebody into my life, he should never ever ever do that again. We of course have Chris, who comes off in this movie as like, to me it comes off as like the Keanu Reeves film Knock Knock, or it comes off as the Stephen King film Misery, uh, where of course we have a character that becomes all too trusting to, of course, a girl named Sky, and that ends up backfiring and blowing up in his face. This guy is, of course, to have this high tech home where it's to be this kind of smart home. And we also have Chris, who is going on here and realizing more and more that it seems that everything in his life since meeting Sky is to come off to be a lot more planned than he is to realize. So, with that said, I really thoroughly enjoy this film, even though the trailer ruined it for me. I really liked this film. I would tell people to go out of their way to see this film. Really, with this film, I will also let people know that there are several times when both Chris and Sky are consistently going at it in this film, so to speak. Uh, Meaning they are doing some bedroom business. We have at one point where Ronald, who is John Malkovich's character, is to go on and look through a telescope to find a girl doing some very creative yoga, meaning that this girl is doing a normal yoga, but it seems like she is to not be shy about basically doing yoga right in front of this window without clothes. So, the only thing that I feel disappointed about is really just, why is John Malkovich in this film? Uh, Really, we have this big named actor that is kind of sparingly used. Really, like, I think it's probably one of those where, like, John Malkovich is just like, hey man, I just want to be part of this movie. This film looks so interesting. And he probably wanted to work with a number of these people, and so maybe he just took it on and just said, like, hey, whatever small role that you can give me, I'm willing to take. So, yeah, but it just kind of feels overall disappointing that he's even in this role that he's in. But maybe it was fun for him. Maybe it was just a fun role with a number of people that he can work side by side with. Plus, more likely, there was probably some people that were just like, hey man, I'm a big fan of his work. I'm a big fan of his work. Just let me be in this movie for X amount of time, and then I'll go on and just be happy that I worked with these people. So, so yeah, with that said, I think that this movie is, like, I would have to go out of my way to say that it's a good slash great kind of film, and it probably shouldn't be to some people. Like, they could have different kind of opinions, to just be like, well, I would probably be rather watching Knock Knock, or I'd probably be watching Misery, and that's okay, that's fine, but it's kind of one of those kinds of films. So at the end of the day, I think it's just time to say that it's roughly about that time again to go into spoilers. Like, the only thing that I could probably say for Chris here is this guy is to be too trusting, and like, we can kind of understand via the way the story is to go on possibly why uh Chris may be at a desperation point where he is to go on and just kind of finally let his hair down, so to speak, and just go on and realize that that still is going to blow up in his face. Um, but yeah, so with that said, I think that's all I want to say about this film. And so let's go out of our way to go in that double 5-time territory so you can hear the spoilers if you want to. But let's go through. Where is the best way to see this? Well, it seems if you go through Google, there's a number of things you could rent this movie if you want to go out of your way to do that. I think $6.99 is the price to rent this film, but I can give you a free option. You can go onto a Google search and search the word "Let Her See Movies," and you can download this app and be able to see anything. Uh, with the exclusion of there's some rare things that I would tag team with another app. You can go on Google search an app called Fox HD Movies. You can go out of your way to find a logo that will say Fox HD Movies. The title will say something different. It will say like play 1080p HD, whatever, all that garbage. So you can go ahead and download that app and there in fact be able to combine both those apps together to be able to see whatever your heart's content, whatever you want, you can absolutely see for free. If you want to randomly see any number of stuff that you have not seen in a very long time because you could not be bothered to try to rent it or get some app to see it, then conveniently it's probably on one of those apps. Exhaust the search engine to see if there isn't something that isn't there. You could also go into a Google Play Store and download the app TV Crush. Every once in a while, on that app, there will be certain shows that won't be on either one of those apps, or maybe you have like a brand new show that app may have and those others won't. It's surprising eventually what you'll see or want to kind of get to the quickest, and some app may conveniently have that. So with that said, let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time to get to spoil this movie. So we of course have Chris Decker in the very beginning of this episode. It's funny when I say a movie, or when I say a show, I accidentally say movie, and when I say movie, I accidentally say show. It's weird. So Chris Decker is to be this multi-million-dollar rich guy because I guess he was to be able to have certain apps and certain things. And so it seems that Chris was to definitely want to secure his home by having this whole alarm system go on, and he is to be set up to the yin yang and whatever. Chris is going on and talking to his his future ex-wife, Jamie, who is going on and asking him to, like, hey, why haven't you signed the papers yet? And Chris is just like, well, I'm sorry, like, this just seems just too final, and like I'll get it to you soon. I'll give you the paper soon. And so Jamie's like, well, like, do you want to see Willow? Because, like, it really seems that she wants to go and see you soon. Here's my thing. How is it exactly that Chris and Jamie are to have this kid? Did they adopt? Is it a kid that they adopted? No offense, but I just wanted to, there wasn't that story there. Because I was wondering, like, whose kid was this exactly? But anyways, I guess it really doesn't matter. So Chris, realizing that his marriage to Jamie is coming to an end, Chris is to realize that he's going to just finally let his hair down and go on and take a risk. Because he has been safe for all of his life. What a big mistake that was. So Chris goes on and is to bump into a girl at some grocery store, and it seems that this girl named Sky is to desperately be wanting some wine tips because it seems that her and her roommate uh, are having a disagreement, an argument, or whatever. I say roommate because it seems that Sky and this girl seem to be a little bit more than just roommates. It seems like Sky and Lisa seem to be lovers because when Lisa is to make it back, or when Sky is to make it back to Lisa's apartment the very next day, we end up having both Sky and Lisa kissing. Funny enough, we also have it where Chris and Sky are getting intimate also. So it seemed like Sky was too timing. So, but really, I'm like, oh, this is how this story goes, where it just seems like Sky is just using people. Okay, all right. So, like, she just kind of like she like kind of goes to one person and the next, and she like has done this probably for a while, and it seems that we also have Ronald, who is to go on and say it's like, man, this girl really knows what she's doing. So we go on and we have Sky, who is to have Chris drive her back to her place. And Chris is going on telling Sky, it's like, well, hey, how about you just kind of like you sleep in my place and maybe in the morning you guys can work things out. Maybe it's just like you guys need some time to just sleep it off kind of thing. So Sky goes on with Chris, and so they just spend the night together. We have Sky asking Chris all these like all these things about him and all this tech that he is of course to have, how of course he is to have this kind of home and have this kind of setup and whatever. So we just find out that Chris has this whole like phone set up for his house to be this kind of smart home. So really at a push of a phone button, we can go on and have this house locked up. Uh, and controlled and whatever. So, which is like, oh my god, hopefully there's a way for Chris to just get out of this. So, Chris goes on and it seems like he's won over by Sky easily, but really it's just the real true like he's at a really bad spot in his life because like his wife desperately just wants him to sign away the papers, get a divorce and move on. So now really since Chris is to really want someone else in his life, this is the only girl that's really for him. And so we go on and we have Chris who is to have Sky kind of walk home the very next day because I guess she just kind of wakes up before he does. And all of a sudden we have Ronald, who is actually to be technically these girls' landlords because he is to own this motel that they're in. We have both Sky and Lisa going into this apartment, and we still have Lisa that is griping about these two characters. And so but it seems that Sky is to make it up with Lisa just basically by kissing her, and so we eventually have Sky who continues to hang out with Chris because at some point Chris is to go on and find out where Sky works. And so Sky is like, well, are you stalking me? And Chris is like, well, guilty. So like I'm paraphrasing here, but like he's basically like, yeah, I'm sorry, like I followed you to your job. So we have both Chris and we have Sky going off to Chris's car. All of a sudden, there's to be a guy there called Kaiju, I believe is hopefully how it's pronounced. Uh, And so this guy goes on and is to start trying to get into Chris's car. Uh, Chris is to stop this thief. This guy is to have a crowbar. All of a sudden, this guy goes and smacks up this guy's leg and hurts him pretty badly to where he is to go to the hospital and need a, of course, a, uh, what is the perfect word here? Like a cast. There we go. Doi. So we go on and have Chris who needs a cast here, and so now we have it to where Chris is to need some kind of nursing assistant, and so Sky is just like, well, hey, how about, since I feel bad because you hurt your leg, and like, why is it that you just need a nursing assistant? Why can't you just have me? As really Sky is going on to just hump the crap out of Chris anyways, we just have Sky who's just kind of working her way in to Chris to just have her live here, and Chris is just like, okay, that sounds reasonable, because Sky is just saying like, well, hey, like, think about it, like, I can go and take care of you, and like we can just continue to bang it out at some points, and so Chris is just like, okay, that sounds like a better offer than getting some normal nurse. So Chris has Sky live with him, and so Chris has Sky get all of her stuff from her place. So we go on and have at one point where Ronald is seeing Sky the first time that she is to make it back to her place. We, of course, have Ronald saying that she's making the walk of shame, and also Ronald is trying to offer Lisa this rose, and is to just kind of mention, it's like, well, it's been a while since I've seen you happy, so on and so forth. Ronald is bizarrely, I think, trying to work over Lisa, or maybe just trying to uh, like see what he can possibly get out of this by winning this girl over. Not quite sure. So, but all of a sudden, once Sky starts living with Chris, all of a sudden Ronald is to now go and open the door of Lisa's place, now that Lisa's the only one living there. Ronald starts going on and on about, like, hey, Lisa, I just need some, like, rent from you. It's been a while. So all of a sudden, Ronald is to go in further into this apartment, going through and hoping that she's not decent, because Ronald will say, like, hopefully you're decent, or not. So we have Ronald go through this place, all of a sudden finding Lisa in this tub, and there is a possibility that this is a self-death, or this is possibly a murder, I guess is what is to come up on the news. So Ronald, of course, is to call this in, and Ronald thinks that he's going to have his 15 minutes of fame on this camera with this news reporter, and all of a sudden they start going on, and these news reporters instead want to go into the room, start talking to these police officers, and whatever having. Ronald's like, oh, come on, like, you locusts. Like, as Ronald is trying to go on and say, like, the back history of this place, and trying to get his 15 minutes in all honesty. So we go on and we have Sky, who is going on and continue to live with Chris. So all of a sudden, Chris is to go on to just kind of wake up one day, as we kind of have maybe Sky over medicating Chris here, to the point of Sky waking Chris up and getting his eyes scanned so that way she can access his phone. So we go on and we have Chris, who is asking Sky for his phone, and then Chris, of course, is asking for Sky's phone, because Chris is going and seeing a news report that Sky didn't see, that Lisa is possibly dead one way or the other. So Chris seeing this report and then seeing Skye, Chris is going and breaking the news to Skye that her roommate or her past roommate is dead. And that's when Skye turns to Chris and says, well, yeah, because I killed her. And he's like, oh my God. Yeah, as this girl is going and eating some chicken. And so we have Chris here who's asking, like, Skye, it's like, hey, like, I guess models eat chicken. And she's like, well, yeah, of course we do. Like, we can eat as much as we want and never gain a pound kind of thing. So we go on here and we just have Skye, who now is to basically torture Chris for information, asking for Chris's maiden name of his mother so that way she can get more information out of him, secret answer things that he is supposed to answer, so that way they can start really ripping and tearing through Chris, trying to get every single cent, dime thing that he has, so that way Chris will go on and empty out his bank account and everything to Skye. So she goes on and she is now taking this drill and drilling into Chris's cast, stabbing into his leg, desperately trying to get this information, and Skye has all the time in the world. So because Chris isn't going anywhere. So, since Chris is to have this wheelchair, we go on and we have Skye who tapes him to this wheelchair. And so now he's really not going anywhere. Hopefully, he doesn't need to or pee or anything, because he's just going to have to do it in the chair, sadly. So, now we go on and we have Skye who is to showcase that the guy who had crowbarred Chris before and had put him in this cast is the exact same guy that's going to go through and collect all of this guy's stuff, basically clean him out, taking every single rug, taking every single piece that is to go on and make any kind of money of sorts. And so Skye is telling Chris that they're going to take him down to the stubs. They're going to get rid of all of his furniture, everything. So that way they can go on and make money off of him every single way they can. I'm like, what are they going to go and like Pacific Heights this guy? Where they're going to go on that Michael Keaton movie? Where like they're also taking the pipes too? They're taking the copper pipes and all this stuff, and like they're gonna have this just home just like disheveled and whatever, and he's not even gonna have a home in a pot to crap in, so to speak. So we go on and we have this guy saying like, hey, nice meeting you again, as he's taking all of his stuff, taking all of these paintings that are to be really, really expensive, as Skye is going on and taking pictures of all of them to eventually get them to see how much they're worth. So we go on and have one point where Skye is to leave this place to go on and continue to try to take away from Chris any way that she possibly can. So while Chris is gone, all of a sudden we have Ronald, who is to be telescoping and kind of peeping, Tomming through all of these neighbors. Where, of course, he is to go and spot a girl that is to do some really interesting yoga, and to also go on and have Ronald find out where Skye is now living with Chris. And so he's like, all right. So Ronald goes on and is to break into the window of Chris's place and is to make his way into this place for Ronald to now find Chris desperately like taped up and it's like that's all he can really say. He's so taped up. So Ronald goes on and is to take off the tape of this guy's face. And so Ronald is going on. It's like, well, man, you have a really nice house here. And I'm like, oh my god, like please don't, like please tell me that this guy is going to help him. And so Ronald is taking his sweet time trying to rescue Chris here because Ronald is saying like, well, how much money do you have on you? I'm like, oh my god, like this guy is looking for a rescue fee. And so Ronald goes on and sees this one painting that's $6 million or $6 or $7 million. And so Ronald's like, that'll be enough. It's a Picasso painting. So Ronald goes on and takes this painting here, and then is to like slowly but surely untape Chris. Chris is desperately asking for a cell phone, and Ronald doesn't have one. And so Sky is to realize uh, that the alarm system had gone off, and we find out that Ronald is in the place. You would think with this alarm system, you would have thought somebody would have, like some police officer or something would have driven by. Hence why you have an alarm system. But I guess, like, what am I to say here? So we go on and we have Chris, uh, who is telling Ronald here, like, you don't have a cell phone, and he's like, no, it causes cancer. And so it's like, oh my god, this guy's rescuing them, but what are they gonna do? Just hop their way back to freaking to where Ronald may have a phone? Are you kidding me? So, because like we didn't even have Ronald with a car here. He just came by foot. So we go on, and all of a sudden, Sky is to quickly make it back here, and we have, of course, Ronald who busts out this kitchen knife, and Sky is like, because she has a sword. It's like, yeah, like you brought the wrong sword to a sword fight, or you brought the wrong size knife to a sword fight. So whatever. So we go on and we now just have Ronald who's running through the house, and like Chris is still hoping that Ronald can save him. I don't think that's gonna happen. So Sky goes on and is to chase after Ronald here, and while that's going on, Chris is untaping himself and desperately trying to figure out a way to escape here because he is to make it out of this house and is to go and find this one motorcycle where he is to go on here. It looks like a snowmobile motorcycle. It's like this weird looking, like hybrid looking thing. It was so weird to me. So we have Chris using this motorcycle of sorts to then accidentally fall and slip off of this motorcycle, and he is to slide right in front of this road where there is to be a guy named Sebastian who is to his car right in perfect timing. And so we now have it where Sky is killing Ronald, and she's slicing through this Picasso to kill Ronald here. And I'm like, dude, you're just slicing through a $6 and $7 million like painting. Oh my god. Like I would have taken the painting from the guy and then killed him. Might as well have done that. So could have saved some money. So we go on here, and we of course have Sebastian that is to pick Chris up, and he's very like, oh my god, like let me help you, buddy. Let me get you in this car, and let me hurry up and call the police. Like let's try and like let's go on and help you out here. And so we of course have like Sebastian that's like calling this police, and he starts like talking to them, but he's like, Chris, you should go on and you should talk to him. So Chris is all of a sudden desperately trying to talk to him, as Chris doesn't even realize where this car is going. And so all this car is doing is heading right back to Chris's house, where we find out that the 911 operator is none other than Sky. And we end up finding out that Sebastian is supposedly some guy working with Sebastian is working with Sky. And it's like, oh my god. So we go on and we weirdly say that Sebastian is Sky's stepdad, but man, do they have a very weird relationship, especially when you hear them kind of, let's just say they're not exactly yelling away in the background at some point, and then Sky is like, "Oh, I'm sorry, like I had to go and feed the wolf, so to speak." Like, oh my god, you just said that he was your stepdad, and so I guess that's a fabrication, or that has to be the most weirdest relationship. So Ronald is guaranteed dead, so the only thing that we're really holding on is that Jamie and Willow are going to arrive to this place in a number of days. Because Sky goes on and tells Chris that she had basically scouted him for a number of days, realizing exactly his routine, knowing when he is to take a pee, knowing when he is to go on to work out, knowing when certain people are to come to either clean his house or to go on and cut his lawn or anything. So she knows his exact routine because maybe she has been there for X amount of years, kind of scouting this guy out. So, waiting for this big, massive payday. So, we now go on, and for Chris, they're wanting to absolutely clean this guy out. And so Chris is to go on and tell Sky, it's like, why are you still here? Because you have taken everything from me. And Chris is to go on and at one point tell Sky, it's like, well, I loved you and you've taken everything from me. I would have given it to you if you would have just loved me and blah, blah, blah. And so Sky is to go on and tell Chris, it's like, well, here's the thing. I know that we didn't take everything from you. There's still some savings bonds that you have at the bank that we're still going to take from you. Here's the goofy thing. If these people are to go to this bank, I guess you probably wouldn't get suspicious if there's just new people that just arrive, because maybe Chris doesn't come to this bank that often. I don't know. So we go on, and now we have to chop off Chris's thumb so that we can go on and have Sebastian show up as Chris Decker and go on and clean out this guy's savings bonds that are in this bank. So while they're going on and while they're doing that, both Sky and Sebastian, we have both Willow and both Jamie arrive. So here's the weird thing. So we have both of Willow and Jamie that make it into this place, and so we all of a sudden, like, I guess the warning sign of a massive thing of broken glass isn't a worry thing. But then all of a sudden, Jamie is to see a big thing, or a kind of a stain of blood, and then she gets worried, and so Jamie is desperately calling for Willow to come back to her because she doesn't know what exactly is going on. So we now have, of course, where Jamie is to go on and find Chris and is to tell her what's all going on. and that these people will be back soon. And so what ends up happening is both Sebastian and Sky are to make their way back to this place because, surefire enough, Jamie was to leave a note for Chris saying that she had cleaned him out for this bank, saying that her attorney was worried that Chris would try to leave Jamie with nothing in this divorce. And so Jamie went off and cleaned him out from this bank account and left him a note stating that. So Chris is like, oh my god, that's a huge mistake, because now both of these people are going to come back and they're going to go on and now get to you, so we need to do something. So we have these characters come back, and when both Sebastian and Sky were making their way to this bank, we have Sebastian who's telling Sky, it's like, you know what? You seem different on this case than a number of others. Like, what's up with this? Like, what's wrong with you? And so when we make it back to this place, we go on and we have to have Chris make some kind of defense. Because what happens is that their plan is to have Willow go into this one vent and to open this door so that way the mother and father can escape. So we have Willow doing that by the time that both Sky and Sebastian come back, so it's kind of a moot point for this girl to have done any of this. So we have both Jamie and both Chris kind of fighting off, or trying to fight off both Sky and Sebastian here. And so what ends up kind of playing out is we have Sky who gets this gun and she shoots Sebastian, and now we have Chris who is to get his cell phone back, and so Chris is going through and adjusting all the lighting and turning all these sounds on for Sky to just go throughout all the house and just to continue to fire this gun, because that's all she can really just do here. And so what eventually happens is that we have it where Chris is to fight off Sky, eventually having her drop the gun. Now we have it to where they're fighting off using this one little, I guess, like God, what is it called? Like like I guess it would be some kind of like weird like rock climbing axe or something like that. I don't know what exactly this thing is called. I saw it in Tomb Raider, the more recent one, but I have no clue what the heck this thing is called. So it looks like it's a mixture between like it looks like a crowbar, but it's a crowbar that has like these like pointy ends onto it. So we really have a bunch of that where really Sky is stabbing into Chris with this, Chris is stabbing into Sky with this, and so then we have kind of Jamie coming in and she's wrestling with Sky. So all of this is to end up being where both Jamie and Chris are almost going to be killed by Sky with this weird looking weapon. And so now Willow is to go and pick up this gun and is to shoot Sky, as if this is like the end of Die Hard, where he had the one cop who comes in and is like, pow! After he is to go on and say like, oh, I think I can never draw a gun on anybody again because I shot a kid. And so now we have this kid who shoots Sky and she falls over. And so I guess now we weirdly have it here where the police are called. I guess because Chris was to somehow be able to trigger some alarm from his phone because he didn't call anybody, so that way the police would get sent. So we go on here and we have Sky, who at the very end of this film, as she's dying anyways, and as Chris is probably heavily bleeding out at this point, because there's so many wounds that he probably hasn't been healing at all, because how could he? Sky goes on and is to tell Chris her real name, which is, I think, to be Margaret. And that's how the movie just ends. Like, there's no, like, Chris is to learn anything after this. Chris and Jamie make up. Chris and Jamie divorce. There is no aftermath after this. Like, we could have had a moment where, like, fast forwarding to them both being in the hospital, and Chris and Jamie are just like, you know what? Let's make this work. Let's just, like, let's not sign the divorce papers, and let's just kind of let's realize that, like, we are, like, good for one another. And that could have been a nice happy ending instead of the goofy, like, hey, Chris, my name is Margaret, and that's how they end the film. I was like, ugh, like, could have been a better ending here. There could have been, like, a closure ending, not just, like, the way that this movie ends. So with that said, yeah, like, it kind of just, like, it kind of feels like this movie, like, the more the further and further on we go about it, the more far-fetched that I feel that it is, the more I just, like, the more it kind of falls apart, and the more times when I have something negative to say than positive. But I liked the ride, so to speak. I liked the journey that this movie goes into. So I think with that said, I'm going to get the heck out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody. Hopefully I covered everything. I probably paraphrased a lot, but there's very small events that go on in this movie, and there isn't much of dialogue either. Like, really, it's just the big reveals, and really that's it for this film, and when anybody is to die. So yeah, or when anybody is to get hurt or whatever. So it's like, it's an interesting film. I liked it, but like, it has a weak ending. So with that said, I'm gonna weekly get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.